Hey guys, welcome back from break and welcome to your first remote music theory lecture. As you can tell from the slide, we are going to be studying sequences all week. All you need for today is Handout 19, which is on Blackboard. You can download it and print it if you want. If you just want to follow along with the PDF, you'll be fine doing that as well. So I'm going to jump over to the handout. And let's take a look at that first score we've got. So we have Autumn Leaves by Johnny Mercer. We are going to give a listen to the first part of it. And what I want you to focus on as you're listening is just tracking the bass line. If you can sing along, great. It's a little bit hard to hear. So if you can't sing along, don't panic, but focus on tracking the bass line and seeing if you can hear it. The intro's a little long. We start about 30 seconds in with the actual voice and what you have on your lead sheet.
The falling leaves drift by my window. The autumn leaves of red and gold.
So I'm going to pause it there. Now, if you weren't able to follow along with the bass line and sing it through, and you want to give it another try, pause the video, rewind it, try it another couple of times. Otherwise, I am just going to play at the piano. So what I want you to do is try and follow along with the bass line and sing just on a neutral syllable as I play. This is in a different key than the recording. I'm sorry about that, but it's the same key as what you have in front of you on the lead sheet. So just try and follow along with the bass line. Again, if that was difficult, pause the video, rewind it, give it a couple tries until you can really sing along just on a neutral syllable and follow the bass pattern. And the reason I make a point about it being a pattern is that is sort of our topic du jour. So let's take a look at the lead sheet. If you take a look at those first two chords, think about the relationship between the roots. We're going from A down to D. They have a particular relationship. In this case, they are a fifth apart. And you may have noticed just from singing through or just eyeballing the lead sheet, we then repeat that pattern going G to C. And then we do it one more time, F sharp to B, and then we finish up on tonic with our E minor triad. What we have here, if you haven't already looked ahead and looked down at the bottom of the handout, is a nice descending fifth sequence. We've looked at these in class sort of abstractly. They came up, one came up in the Chopin, I think one came up in the cello sonata that we listened to. So we've seen them, but we haven't really talked about how to label them, why we have them in the first place. So if you look at the bottom of this page of your handout, you have the descending fifth sequence. I've sort of neutralized it into just triads. I took the sevenths out. But this is in the same key, so we can talk about its function now. If we're in E minor, and we started on an A minor chord, we actually do start on the predominant. So you can see here, we've got the four chords labeled. One of the nice things about sequences in terms of you guys analyzing scores is you get to suspend your Roman numerals indefinitely. So for the length of the sequence, yes, you could put Roman numerals on all of these. They're all diatonic to the key, but they're not going to tell you a whole lot about what's going on, right? You're going to have a 4 going to a major 7, then going to a major 3, then going to a 6. If I see that, it's not going to tell me a whole lot about what's going on. What does tell me a lot is if I bracket off those 6 chords and say it's a descending fifth sequence. So you get to suspend your Roman numeral analysis for the duration of the sequence. If we talk about harmonic function, this sequence then is just prolonging our 4. Its goal is then to get us from predominant to dominant. And the very last chord of that sequence does happen to be a 5 chord. And then we get our nice 5-1 cadence at the end. So let's talk about labels. When we're looking at a sequence, we're going to have a couple of factors that we'll see in any sequence no matter what it is. Generally, we're working with a pair of chords that have a specific relationship to one another. So if we're looking at this one, we have 2 chords. They're both in root position, and their roots are a 5th apart. We are going to call that the model. And that will be the basis for the rest of the sequence. Then look at your next pair of chords. They exhibit the same relationship, so 5th relationship. We're going to call that pair a copy. And then our next pair of chords is also a copy. Now, this label of descending fifths, it does not necessarily mean that the 5th itself is descending. What it means is that from model to copy to next copy, they are descending from one another. That's the important part. Okay, let's take a listen to another one. So go ahead and take a look at page 2 of your handout. It is a Mozart piano sonata. It's one that I think a lot of you know. The sonata itself, the movement itself is in C major. We're about to enter into a passage that is in G major. So you've got to put your G major hats on for the next couple of minutes, even though that is not in the key signature. So let's just give it a listen. And I'm going to have you, as you're listening, see if you can actually hear what sounds like a sequential pattern. You don't have to be able to label it or anything like that. I just want you to see if you can find, just with your eyes and your ears, a pattern that seems to be repeating over and over. I'm going to play this from the beginning, and then I'll cue you in when we're about to get to the G major section. Here you go. Here we go. Okay, so as you were listening, hopefully you were able to hear that we had a pretty long stretch of sequencing, beginning here at the second system and terminating right here. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is, in a second, you're going to pause me, and I would like to know the root, quality, and inversion of each of the chords involved in this sequence. Your harmonic rhythm is the half note, which means you're going to pretty much bisect each measure. So for each of those 2 beat sections, I want to know the root, quality, and inversion of the harmonies. No Roman numerals, just give me root and quality. So you're going to pause me, do that, and we'll come back and we'll compare notes. Okay, so if you take a look at what I've annotated on the score in front of you, hopefully we have the same thing. The first thing that jumps out at me, if I was just to look at this, is that we have a very clear alternation of first inversion triads and root position triads. Starting with a first inversion, moving to a root position. Again, we are in G major for this passage. So in fact, everyone is diatonic, even though you have notated F sharps because the movement itself is in C major. This passage is in G major. So the entire sequential passage is in fact diatonic. So we're alternating between these root position triads and first inversion triads. Now let's take a look at the relationship between the roots. So not the bass, but the actual roots of the harmonies. Our first measure, we're going from G down to C. Then we're going F sharp to B, E to A. So this should start sounding very familiar. This is the same root movement that we saw and heard in Autumn Leaves. What is different now is that every other harmony is in first inversion. So let's jump to the little staff that I have below here that has everything sort of condensed for you. So we start out with a G major first inversion triad. So we start out presenting tonic, right? And then we have our model here. Change colors, make it a little easier for you. We get our model here. And then our first copy here, our second copy. And we actually get a third one here. When we finish up with that third copy, we've actually come around full circle and we're back on tonic again. So this sequence has just prolonged tonic for a few bars for us. It adds a lot of interest. It's texturally different than the beginning of the passage and the passage that comes afterwards. So it adds some interest, adds some harmonic movement, but net harmonic motion is in fact 0. We started on tonic, we ended on tonic. Okay, take a look at the last page of your handout. This is all the kind of nitty-gritty stuff that you guys know this already. I save it for the end. I like to listen to the cool music first. So sequences. All we're saying when we're saying that there's a sequence is that there is a pattern. There is a pair of chords that we call the model. They exhibit a relationship to one another in both their roots and their inversions. And then that repeats at least 2 times, as we saw in the Mozart. It could be more. We call all those repetitions copies. This is important for right now. This week, we're dealing with diatonic sequences. No accidentals needed. Again, with the Mozart, we were in a G major passage embedded in C major. So there were some accidentals, but they were all diatonic to the presented key of G. Okay, I mentioned this before. We get to suspend harmonic function when we're dealing with sequences. You start your sequence, bracket it off, label the sequence, show me the models and the model and the copies. And then once you finish up the copy, the last copy, then you resume your Roman numerals. Part writing for this, guys, is going to be the easiest part writing you do all semester. I promise you. You look at the model, we're going to walk through one together. You look at the model, and then you do the literal same exact thing for any and all copies. It's super, super easy. Don't let it stress you out. We'll walk through one together. The last point, and this is, of course, for me, going to be the most important. How do I identify them in the wild? Your number one best tool going to be your ears. If you can hear them, then you are going to be able to navigate the score and dig them out. Find the model and find the copies. And then in terms of labeling, first thing you look at is the root relationship, not the bass, the root relationship. Is it a relationship by fifths? Yay or nay? If it isn't, you'll learn those Wednesday and Friday. But if it's a relationship by fifths, that's a good starting point. Is the sequence ascending or descending? Both of the sequences we looked at today were descending, so you don't have to worry about anything else for right now. And then once you have those 2 answers, then you can look at your portfolio of sequences that you know and come up with a label for them. So let's take a look at this little part writing exercise here. What I gave you was the model and the start of the first copy. your second copy is here. And the second chord of your second copy is going to kind of do a dual function as also the predominant that will lead you into a cadence. So, like I said, part writing is an absolute breeze. You're going to look at what I did in the model, and you are just going to replicate it a step down in the copy both times. So go ahead and pause me, and then I will sketch this out. When you come back, we'll compare notes, and we'll talk a little bit. For your dominant to tonic cadence, you have a little bit of free reign. Don't get too weird. But, you know, if you want a seventh or don't want a seventh in your 5 chord, that's cool. If you want a cadential 6/4, that's fine. If you want to do a deceptive cadence, don't have parallel fifths. So we'll reboot in a couple of minutes, pause me, work through this, and then we'll come back in a second. Okay, so go ahead and check what you have for your part writing against what I have up here on the screen. For the most part, we should actually have 0 discrepancies. The only thing that might be a little different is you could have added a 7th to your dominant. If you did a 7th to it, I need you to go find it and make sure it resolves down by step to tonic in the next chord. If you wanted to turn these into quarter notes and have a cadential 6/4 first before your 5, that's fine as well. Make sure that your cadential 6/4 has a doubled bass, so scale degree 5 is doubled. Tonic, again, if you really wanted a deceptive cadence, that's fine. Just make sure that you don't have parallel fifths or parallel octaves in your deceptive cadence. What I have in front of you is the bare bones, most simplistic, probably easiest way to navigate this particular progression. So I have the most simplistic one. Check what you have against what I have, especially I'm most concerned, obviously, with your descending fifths progression itself. So the model and the 2 copies. Okay, so that is your first lecture via Zoom. I'm super stressed out. This is way more stressful than coming to the classroom and teaching you guys. But let's talk about what we've got coming up. So homework 12, also posted on Blackboard, is due on Wednesday. So you may either scan it to me. If you can edit the PDF, just if you have an iPad with an Apple Pen and you want to just do it on the PDF, that's cool. Just email it to me that way. Or snap a picture on your phone and send it to me as an attachment. If you're going that route, please, like a decent photo, right? Don't shoot it from like across the room or up in a tree, and make sure there's light and things like that. As long as I can read it, we are going to be fine. So that is due on Wednesday, just in my inbox. Sometime on Wednesday, guys. It's chill. Just get it to me sometime that day. If you anticipate that you're going to have a problem, and this goes for any assignment for the rest of the semester, and you need an extension, just email me. You guys know at this point I'm pretty flexible, and I'm especially flexible now as we're all navigating this. So just shoot me an email, and I'm happy to work with you. I'll be online today and all the rest of the week for office hours, chat option, and also video option if you would like. So if you've got questions, feel free to pop into office hours, and I'm happy to work through this with you. Thank you so much, guys. Hopefully this will get easier, and the quality will get better as we get rolling. I'm hoping to be back into our classroom soon too. I think that'll be just a little nicer than being in my office. So if you've got questions, please pop into office hours, and I will talk to you then.